I need to tell you two things before you jump to any conclusions about some 47-year-old French professor talking about NetSpend being an American tragedy. Number one, I am not going to sit here and tell you this is bad trash music and back in my day we played guitar, because this is good music by a talented rapper. Okay? I love rage rap. I like the beats on this album. I think he's got skills. You can listen to it. You can vibe to it. All that stuff. Okay? So I'm not going to come on here and say, this is bad. Number two, okay? Number two, I keep this in my wallet at all times. I am a certified badass. Never forget that. All right? Now, of course, in addition to saying that it's a good album, badass fucking kid, despite the fact that I'm also a badass, I am going to explain how it is an American tragedy, how it reflects a societal and generational crisis, how it is quite probably deeply racist, and most definitely active child abuse, to the point where my wife said, while I was describing this video to her, the doctor and Mrs., she said, you shouldn't make this video. You should not participate. And I'm like, yeah, but I have things to say, and I think it might be interesting. I don't think I'm exploiting this kid. But all that to be said, the thing I'm most worried about is its depiction of addiction, and I'm worried about kids these days being too addicted. So here's what I'm doing. I'm creating a fundraiser. You'll see it down there for the Addiction Prevention Coalition, okay? On Charity Raters, it has a platinum rating, which means you can trust it as a charity. It's a nonprofit community resource that aims to eliminate addiction in central Alabama. Okay? It's very targeted, very specific. I chose that for a reason. See if you can figure out why I chose central Alabama as a place to focus on helping people with addiction problems. And here's my promise to you. Every penny I make on this video, every click, every bit of AdSense, I will donate to the Addiction Prevention Coalition. And if I reach a total of $1,000 raised between the fundraiser and my clicks, by the way, that's like 100,000 clicks I'd have to get or to get $1,000 in AdSense. So who knows? Maybe this will take off. I will lip sync to a song. I will perform a NetSpend song on camera this time next week while eating clam chowder that I made. Okay? I'm going to make clam chowder, and I am going to rap NetSpend for you. I'm going to get all sorts of just wild, if you can help me raise $1,000 to help fight addiction in central Alabama. Am I cleansed of sins? I don't know. Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who probably wouldn't have found this organically. If you don't know the Professor Skye lore, I have two kids who are teeny tiny, 2 years old and 3 months old. And then I have two kids who are in between, who are almost NetSpend's age. One of them is 19-year-old son, and a 17-year-old daughter. And every once in a while, they will tell me, like, what's the thing that's happening. And my 17-year-old daughter said, Dad, you need to review NetSpend. I was like, oh, do you really like him? No, not really. But I realized he's the Skibidi toilet of hip-hop. And first of all, I'm proud of my daughter. Okay, she's the same age as NetSpend. And if I had to choose between having a kid who would be NetSpend or having a kid who could accurately call NetSpend Skibidi hip hop, I would choose the latter all day, every day. And I want to take a second here to talk about Skibidi toilet. Okay, there's no shortage of videos of old people being like, what does this mean? What does this mean? I'm not saying that at all. It's simple as hell. If you pretend like, you can pretend like you don't get it. I get it. I was young. I remember what jokes were. I remember how funny it was that jokes were jokes that weren't jokes, that what made the joke funny was that it wasn't funny, and people thinking it's supposed to be funny was what it was funny about because it wasn't funny. I understand those layers and layers and layers and layers of humor. My friends and I, Brad and Keith, we used to play 20 questions, and every single time we played 20 questions for hours, and the answer was always one of three things: the Pope, a tank, or money tane. Okay? And we would just play. Is it animal, vegetable, mineral? We'd go through it, and at the end it was always the same. Was it funny? Yes, it was Skibidi toilet funny. So from the second I first heard Skibidi toilet, I got it. Even though I'm an old guy, I get it. And I understand what my daughter means, because the more I try to study NetSpend, I understand that NetSpend is on that line. On the one hand, much like the Skibidi toilet video is just objectively kind of funny, he is a talented rage rapper. Great loud, great quiet, wonderful depiction of a life with burned out pleasure receptors by the time he's 17. He at one point says, I feel like Future but Gen Z. put a pin in that particular line. But if we're to be honest, he really is just Blady meets Playboy Cardi. Young Lean meets Playboy Cardi. He's serving up what suburban, white, teenage boys want. And perhaps for the first time in the mainstream, signed to a major label, he is doing it with a face that mirrors and a life experience that mirrors the teenage white suburban experience. I will go on. I do think it's a question of cultural appropriation, but almost as much from Sweden as it is from Black Americans. But the main thing that I get here is the meme love. You know, the people calling him the GOAT. People knowing that when you call him the GOAT, you're going to get people mad. And that anger, that kind of frustration is part of it. It's funny to love NetSpend's music. I understand that. I understand that people simultaneously love his music and don't love it at the same time. The same way Skibidi is funny because it's funny, and it's funny because it's not funny, and it's funny because other people are trying to understand why it's funny and they don't understand. It's actually an example of modern irony, which is where the internet has brought us. In this very room, on my secondary channel, I did an entire video on a YouTube personality called J-Reg, who I think ultimately will be seen as one of the most important YouTubers that's ever existed. In particular, his work on sarcasm, satire, and irony. He defined 3 levels of irony, which I'm going to illustrate with an example that I've already used on that secondary channel. So if we have 3 levels of irony, level 0 is the truth, okay? It's not ironic. So there's a couple different kinds of pickles. There's dill pickles and there's sweet pickles. And the truth is, I despise sweet pickles. I hate them. If I taste them, I want to spit them out. I get angry that they're in my burger. Get out of here with your sweet pickles, okay? So level 0 is the truth. I dislike sweet pickles. Level 1 irony is just straight irony. If I said, I love sweet pickles. You understand that? You understand that that's like irony because I'm saying the opposite of what I actually mean? And then level 2 irony is where most of the internet is. This is where the love for NetSpend is. It's either post-irony or meta-irony, okay? Post-irony is where you return to sincerity but expressed ironically, usually through hyperbole. Okay, so I dislike sweet pickles. That's level 0. A level 2 post-irony would me saying like, sweet pickles is worse than my mom dying. Sweet pickles is worse than Hitler. Okay, there's a level of irony where you know I'm exaggerating. But the most interesting, this is where we get into the Skibidi. Okay, we're into the Skibidi verse, y'all. Is where whatever you say, you're saying something about a thing, but it's unclear what you actually think. There's so many layers of irony and insincerity and sincerity that you don't know. Okay? So if I were to talk about sweet pickles in the meta-ironic way, I would say something like this. Sweet pickles, when used correctly, are great, such as in a nice relish or in a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You know what I mean? Buckaroo banzai! My aunt used to call me Sweet Pickles, but that was before we put down our cat for fun. Sweet Pickles, Sweet Pickles, Sweet Pickles. My gamer tag on PlayStation is Pete Swickles. What do I think about Sweet Pickles? You don't know. Simultaneously, you might think I love them, and you might think I hate them. Okay? That's how I read NetSpend fandom. And that's why I think it's so important to study him, even though I'm uncomfortable talking about a literal child. Okay? Somebody who is literally, not metaphorically, literally a child. You hear my babies screaming downstairs? NetSpend is closer to that baby than they are to me as an adult. Okay? It's okay. My wife's down there. It'll all kind of settle down a bit. Szechuan sauce. There's another great example of this kind of meta-irony. People getting excited for Szechuan sauce because they liked it and because they didn't care about it at the same time. There's also kind of a dark side to this meta-irony. I remember my son came home one day a couple years ago and he said, Dad, have you ever heard of this guy Andrew Tate? And I'm like, no. Well, he's a really interesting guy. You might like him because he's sort of like, he's really ironic. Like he talks about all these ideas, these kind of weird, dangerous, toxically masculine ideas, but he's joking the whole time. And then I watched some Andrew Tate and I was like, son, he's not joking. He's like, no, I think he's joking. I don't think he's joking. a lot of the support of Trump over the last couple of years has come about sort of ironically, you know? Isn't it funny, the idea of Trump being a very masculine guy with a big barrel chest and a machine gun? Isn't it funny thinking about him as all these things that he's not, but we also think that he is? We live in a world of absolutely confusing, totally ungroundable space. And in that way, I love NetSpend because I think that's a positive and interesting thing. That's an interesting development, okay? I grew up as a Generation Xer, and for the most part, we were not very good at getting to that next level of irony. We were good at being sarcastic, but that was about it. Some of us pushed at the edges of this, you know, and some forefathers did. Obviously, Andy Kaufman is the king of level 2 irony. You never know if he's joking or serious. And I, myself, as a young edgelord, would often venture into this territory. But that's the positive side. But then there's the negative side. There is the tragedy, which is there is at the heart of this little thought experiment I'm talking about here, this abstract thing I'm talking about, like a very lost, presumably soon to be dead child. Okay? Are you still laughing about this child who's probably going to die soon? Are you enjoying the music of the child who will most likely die in the next couple years? Because that's where all of your irony and your ironic clapping is going. It's a tragedy. Okay? On the cover, you see a baby smoking a cigarette. And that's not the saddest thing in the world. You know, because I didn't let my 5-year-olds smoke. You know, when my kids were 8 years old, 10 years old, I didn't let them smoke. And so I thought I was a good parent. I did let them have an iPad. That's worse. Yeah, it's worse. It's worse. If you have to choose, you have a 10-year-old, give him a pack of cigarettes or give him an iPad, give him the cigarettes. Because the cigarettes, okay, it'll hurt your lungs, but you'll hopefully quit eventually. The iPad, that kind of screen stuff, that actually patterns addictive behavior. The saddest thing I've seen, something so sad I almost didn't even want to do this video, okay? It's this image. Okay, not this. This is the Skibidi toilet image that my daughter made for me. It's this image, okay? This is NetSpend, all right? Gunnar Shepherdson. Okay, this is the artist known as NetSpend. This picture was posted to Instagram November 8th, 2015. He was 8 years old. His caption is Coolio, and he's staring at the picture with a dead-eyed stare. This is him trying to find some kind of joy, some kind of pleasure, some kind of connection to the outside world, and he's using it through a screen. This is the saddest image I could possibly think about. Now, all the comments here are all like, oh, let's go, you're going to release the best album ever, Lil Net, oh, you're swerving and derving, all that stuff. This is sad, everybody. This is bad news. This is bad news. This is bad news. The outcome of this is what NetSpend is, which is, if he is as he presents himself, a fame-addicted, opiate-addicted, sad person. Those pleasure receptors are already burned out. Now listen, I've done a little bit of research on him as a person. It's hard to tell, you know, it seems like his parents are divorced and said he was kicked out of school. So that's interesting. I think there's genuine pain in his music. I don't think it's all a play. But, you know, let's take a little more time actually on that cover. Okay, I've done a little bit more work here. I've done a little bit more work here with the cover of this album, Badass Fucking Kid, right? So obviously, you know, we have the reference to Ready to Die, having a baby on the front with the leg curved like that, except he has the cigarette, which is pretty clearly a reference to Van Halen's 1984 with a little angel baby smoking a cigarette there, okay? A little reminder for all of you tobacco enjoyers, the person who's responsible for that image died a terrible, terrible, terrible death of lung cancer. Yeah, Eddie Van Halen. So there you go. You know, we had this image, so already we had the image of corrupted youth. And of course, the bad that's the bad on Michael Jackson's Bad. That's the bad on the cover of Badass Fucking Kid, okay? When we think of Michael Jackson, we think of a great musician, you know? And we know that NetSpend likes Michael Jackson's music. We also know that Michael Jackson probably touched kids. This album is about a 17-year-old who, since he was 15 or 16, has been sexually active with adults. It's bad. It's not good. It's nothing to high five about. It's nothing to kind of sweep away. It's a serious problem. Okay, here we have this image, not for nothing. There's a little Statue of Liberty as a skull. I don't think that's a reference to the American embassy in Tehran, in Iran, after the revolution. They kicked us out of the embassy, and that's on the side of the American embassy where it was. And we have this little image here, and this really bugged me here because this is a child soldier, so I guess he's trying to say that he's a child soldier. You know, also right here, most dangerous man in America. I'll talk about whether or not he's dangerous and why he's dangerous. Okay, this is actually an image from a BBC story about child soldiers in Sierra Leone. Is he trying to draw a parallel between himself as a child soldier? That's maybe going a little bit far. And then finally, sniffing glue won't keep families together. It's just kind of a random image. All these things paint this very kind of discordant, dark, ugly picture. And this is an ugly album by an ugly dude. I mean, he's a handsome guy, but it's ugly. Everything's supposed to be ugly. It's supposed to be unpleasant. And it's all about perks and lean. And it's a kid. And it's a kid who's been formatted to be an addict since he was first given his first iPad at 8 years old and was allowed to share that with the world and see what kind of dopamine hit he would get when it came back. Okay? He's been high since he was 7. And listen, I don't know his life story. Based on what I've seen, this is not somebody who grew up in a rough and tumble part of town. This is not somebody who grew up living the typical hip-hop experience of a life of a voiceless person, a marginalized person in society. He appears to be the kind of kid who has been given everything by society, which is to say middle-class suburban white kids, okay? They are given everything. That doesn't make them happy. That doesn't make them okay. That doesn't make them good. That doesn't make them bad, but that does remain a fact. They have been given so much, and yet addiction is rampant, is everywhere. And we can point fingers at rap music, and we can point fingers at influencers, and we can point fingers, or we can just talk about this spiritual emptiness that's in there, okay? We can talk about the fact that this is reflecting an American nightmare. There's so many kids, whether they are the kind of kids who need the support of Addiction Prevention Coalition, okay? I chose that because it's Birmingham, Alabama, which is 73% black. Okay? And there's a huge addiction problem there, and that doesn't get half as much attention as white addiction problems do in the suburbs. So that's why I want to raise money, because it is tragic. It is tragic. There's all these suburban white kids, but they also have more of a safety network around them, which they will hopefully use. Okay? So is he more dangerous than other rappers? That's interesting. I do think in some ways he is the most dangerous rapper, but only because America, as a white supremacist society, really only cares about danger to white kids. All right? So, I think he is the United Healthcare assassin of rap artists, okay? Like, he is a danger to the people in power because he represents a suburban white kid, child of divorce. A lot of suburban white kids, childs of divorce, grow up in nice towns like the one that I live in, and there's lots of money around, and there's lots of privilege, and there's lots of access, and he is telling all of those kids, drink lean, get addicted to codeine, develop really bad habits with drugs that will permanently damage your ability to form thoughts into your adulthood. Become like that weird dribbly dude that you see, little dribble piss people, dribble piss adults, okay? NetSpend, if he continues on this, will be a dribble piss adult, okay? There will be little piss stains on his pants, and he will be drooling, and there will be a far-off look in his face, and you will not be able to communicate with him on any real level at all about anything. That's what we're celebrating when we celebrate this kind of behavior, okay? So if he's dangerous because of our white supremacist society that prioritizes white health over black health, okay? But that's not to say it's not important. It is. Because hip-hop is, by number, not by percentage, but by number, the primary audience is white people because there's more white people in America, okay? Again, not by percentage, but by numbers, okay? And it makes me think of, Eminem. white America. Look at these eyes, baby blue, baby just like you. If they were brown, Shady lose. I mean, just like yourself. If they were brown, Shady lose. Shady sits on the shelf, but Shady's cute. Shady knew. Shady's dimples would help make ladies swoon. Oh, baby, look at my sales. Let's do the math. If I was black, I would have sold half. There is very much a real race issue to this album, which I will talk about more in detail as we go. But it is... If this works... if he becomes an actual superstar, it's a catastrophe for him and not good for hip-hop culture and not good for hip-hop consumers. But it's still a good album. You know, and when I think about, you know, white suburban kids, like I was, everyone wants representation. And who did I have? You know, obviously I had Kurt Cobain, right? I talk about him all the time. Okay, I had Kurt Cobain. He represented me, the disaffected youth who had trouble with his family and had trouble with expectations of masculinity and all those things. That's who I had. Who do kids today have? Streamers, okay? Whatever, Ninja or Hassan Abi or Fresh and Fit or Mr. Beast or Andrew Tate or any of those kinds of people, okay? Like that's who they can look up to, are like streamers and video game players. But who do they have in music? You know, that's why I find Quatica so important, because Quatica really sort of represents those people while at the same time not being self-destructive. It's interesting because in music, a lot of times, since rap was introduced, was so popular with white suburban kids, and it's fascinating because it's outside their lived experience. So if you are a white American and you listen to Playboi Carti and he's talking about the hoes and he's talking about guns and he's talking about lean or whatever, or Future, like there's a level of distance. If you're listening to Swedish hip-hop, in particular white Swedish hip-hop that is in the self-destructive vein as pioneered by Young Lean, and I would say perfected by Blady, also called Blade, but I call him Blady. It's like we have these kinds of different self-destructive role models. And that's what we have. I mean, I don't know what it is, but kids just want self-destructive role models. And up until NetSpend, there's a level of distance between the person taking in the self-destructive behavior and the person modeling the self-destructive behavior. Because either that person is a black American and their life experience is wildly different than yours, or they are the same race as you, but they are in Sweden. That's why I say if this album hits, it could be seismic. It really could be. And why him? Okay, my 19-year-old son had a friend who made hip-hop. Every white suburb in the country has like 3 or 4 kids who make hip-hop beats. Like, it's everywhere. It's not that hard to do. And most of them are just like this guy, rapping about stuff they don't know anything about. Okay? Pretending to be things that they're not. Pretending that their life experience is the same as Future. Okay? Probably because he's extra white. Just the blondness. Like, there's a vulnerability to his look. There is a childishness. That's a huge element to this album, that he is childish. I'd like to quote an interview from ID where they talk about one of his collaborators, and they talk about him, and they say, when I first met him, all I hear is, do-do-do-do-do, brr, brr, brr. I got a mini Uzi. Come spin the block, bruh. They're talking about real-life guns. But they're in Roblox. If you don't know what Roblox is Minecraft, but stupid. Okay, as far as I can tell. But hey, I never played Roblox. I played tens of hours of Minecraft in order to better understand my children's generation. That's my take on Roblox. You correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But like, remember, I'm going back to the irony thing. Do you listen to NetSpend? Do you think he actually has a stainless steel gun? Do you think he's actually living this life he's talking about? Or is he on some level being ironic? Is he on some level, like, isn't it funny? I made a rap song on my God, I don't know if it was an Apple II. It was whatever kind of desktop Apple you could have in 1994. And I made a rap beat. And I called myself Spunky Bee. And I had my mom come in to record a verse. And she said, "I'm Spunky Bee's mom." Yeah. And I pitched it down. And it was the funniest goddamn thing I ever heard, okay? And then I was talking about shooting people and driving cars. And I was pretending I was Eazy-E. I mean, obviously I wasn't, using the N-word or anything like ridiculous. But, I was just having fun with the genre, goofing around with these things that I knew nothing about. Laughing, turns out, I was laughing at Black Death in my suburban comfort, but I didn't know. I didn't think I was doing that. And I was entirely for myself. That hard drive is long gone in some patch in the ocean. You will never get to hear, "I'm Spunky Bee's mom." Yeah. All right? So, I told you I'm a certified badass. My brother bought this for me at a CVS, probably 1993. Look at that 90s design right there. That's not retro. Certified badass. Whap, whap. I will say, as far as white rappers go, this dude's better than Jack Harlow. He's better than Post Malone. So, deal with it. I just said that. Okay? I just said that. So you can argue with me in the comments if you want. I do think he might end up being the voice of his white generation. I do think that. I think he has more capacity to relate to and express the feelings of kids these days than any rocker I've heard, or even in any other streamer. This kind of blown out, what is the effect of posting to Instagram when you're 8 years old? It's not okay. I tell my students, when my mom was in college, she had a job where she would give out packs of cigarettes for free at parties, okay? I think Camel cigarettes. She would give them out for free. That is super screwed up, but not nearly as screwed up as giving your kids an iPad when they're 8 years old and telling them they can post to Instagram. So as far as the racism stuff goes, that's the question. I said in a video recently that rap has never been stolen, and people say, "Skye, how can you say that?" Financially, rap has been stolen, obviously. Financially, all the money goes to the same ghouls that make money off of all music and all that. It's all centralized power to a couple of CEOs and stockholders and all that stuff, right? So yes, financially, it's been stolen. Sure, fine. But artistically, not really. And if NetSpend outsells Future or Travis Scott, or if white kids stop listening to Future or Travis Scott or the next Future and Travis Scott, then maybe this is a deep problem for the future of hip hop, because if black rappers are no longer able to make a living off of being rappers, they will do something else with their creativity. That's what happened to rock and roll. That's why we got rap in the first place, okay? That's why it keeps moving around, because they're right? But then we get to this line. I feel like Future but Gen Z. And that's a serious problem line, because that means he doesn't understand Future. Because Future is a genius. Future is an innovator. Future is a part of hip-hop culture and a part of the culture. By that, I mean the larger Black American culture. His uncle was the guy behind The Basement, okay? Rico Wade, the guy behind The Basement, where Outkast and Goody Mob got their start, okay? He's part of this long history and the culture, and his struggle with racism, and his struggle with addiction, and his struggle with being at the edges of society, and the struggle with crime, and living in a terrible part, and living in a forgotten part of the country, and living in a part that was pushed down so that the part of the world where NetSpend grew up could be lifted up. That's where Future's from. You're confusing who Future is. You think Future is just someone who tells you to do drugs. That Future does do that. Future regrets it, but keeps doing it. The famous story of Juice WRLD telling him, "Hey, you taught me how to drink lean." And Future being like, "Oh, damn, I'm sorry." Okay? But Future is more than encouraging kids to have crippling addiction that turns them into piss pants adults. Dribbly piss? What did I say? Dribbly piss. And I'm uncomfortable with a lot of the wording on this album. He's using a lot of AAVE. I mean, African American. Yes, he's using a lot. When I grew up, we used the term ebonics. I don't quite know if that term is no longer okay to use. And again, it's like, is he ironic when he says, ain't no walk in Poland? Like, is that really how you talk? Is that really how you speak? Is it really? Ain't no walk in Poland? That's the way you speak? We ain't going broke? That's really how you speak? All the way throughout this album, the way he's talking. I mean, verbal blackface is kind of a thing, and that's the feeling I get off of this, but maybe it's authentic. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not in NetSpend's world, but the feeling I get is a little uncomfortable. It makes me a little uncomfortable. But again, I'm sure you will tell me in the comments what you think about that. And it's child abuse. Listening to this album, promoting this album, enjoying this album is child abuse. Fortunately, childishness is a theme, but he is a 17-year-old kid. He should be applying to college. Okay? He should be applying to college. If you are a 17-year-old and you are applying to college, you are doing better than NetSpend. Okay? You are having a better, more successful life. Your trajectory for happiness is much higher. Okay? Community college doesn't have to be Harvard. It doesn't have to be University of Virginia. It can be community college. Maybe it's a private school. Maybe you're not going to go to college and instead you're going to get a job, I don't know, as a forklift driver or something because you're pretty good at it and used to help out your uncle at a work site a while ago. It doesn't matter. If you're 17 years old, if you're 20 years old, if you're 22 years old, if you're a young person and you don't have a lifelong crippling addiction, you are better off than a rock star in his slut truck. I'm here to tell you as a 47-year-old wisdom dude, okay? As a certified badass, okay? How many people you know are certified badasses? I'm just telling you, we should just feel pity. But it's weird because a lot of the Gen Z figures who I like if you look around on the internet, like I see their names pop up as liking all of NetSpend stuff, you know, like Ro Ramden, who might even be watching this video. Quanick, Lauren Oder, like they all seem to follow NetSpend, and so I think he must be doing something deeply Zoomer that everybody understands and accepts, because the world is Skibidi. Okay? And young people are the only ones who can see it. Old people think the world is not. Old people think the world is logical, rational, makes sense, this or that. Young people are smart enough to know the world is going to be Skibidi. And if I could boil down this entire album to one theme that he repeats, do you actually know what it is? It's not, I'm on perk and I'm on slut trucks and I'm finna be up in that BBL. Jesus Christ, stop it! It's not that. It's we gonna be okay. He's trying to say we're gonna be okay. So let's hope that he is. And donate some money to Addiction Prevention Coalition of Central Alabama, because Central Alabama needs more help with addiction. Okay? What are you going to do with your money? Help them out. Or share this video and I'll help them out. Again, come back this time next week. I'm going to be writing that check. Well, I'll be sending it electronically. So, you know, musically, I'll actually get to the album. Here we are, 32 minutes in. Did you miss my whole prologue? That's okay. That's okay. You missed a bunch of interesting stuff, I hope. You know, it really is Playboy Cardi meets Blady. It's just all the way throughout, like going between rage and the kind of sad, super layered, super computer produced style beats. I'm not going to go into detail in them. I mean, most of it's produced by someone named OK, who is actually quite good. He should change his name to Quite Good. Damn. That is a dad joke. That is a dad joke. Unbelievable. Should change his name to Quite Good. That's not in my script, by the way. I don't have a script. I just have notes, and that's not in my notes. So just a lot of jagged layers, and his voice and his rhyming. He's got a charismatic voice. He's got it that people need to have in order to be engaging and interesting. His rhymes are more or less strong for the genre that he's in, and it's good. It's just a good album. It's solid all the way through. And really, it's addiction and empty sex. It's depressed hedonism, which is a whole genre of music, which is like super popular in French rap right now, Swedish rap, American rap, depressed hedonism. That's where we are. Fortunately, Kendrick is providing us a different lane. You don't have to just be a mindless consumer who's constantly sad. You can work on making yourself a better person and your community a better place, as opposed to just trying to build a personality off of the things you consume. whether they be PlayStation 5s or Percocets. If you like what you see, smash like bucket, subscribe. AVAA stands for awesome video as always, and I will always heart a comment that says that. Even if this video gets that 100,000 in order to make me do a video where you pick the song. I will do the NetSpend song if you help me raise $1,000 for Addiction Prevention Coalition. So I'm going to give you an example song. It's the first track, Growing Up. It's more in the kind of less ragey, more spacey, discordant sounds. And these lyrics, it get weird growing up. I don't want no love, but I don't think you did enough. So I think he's talking to his parents in the club. Listen, I'm going to read his lyrics as though they're tragic, okay? Because they are. You know, you hear like, it get weird growing up, and when the love... Dramatic reading. It get weird. It get weird growing up. I don't want no love, but I don't think you did enough. In the club, keep going up. Fuck. Shit. That's why I keep throwing up. Why? Why should I keep pouring up? I wish I could just not grow up. I wish I could just not pour up. All I want to do is chill inside a slut truck. All right, these are sad lyrics. He's explaining the source of his addiction as a lack of connection to his parents. Bam. That's what makes it universal. That's what makes it important. That's why, despite all of the fake-ass vocabulary that he's using, despite the fact that he is doing, I would say, verbal blackface that makes me quite uncomfortable, he is expressing something which is true to himself and true to a lot of his audience. These are problems that human beings have. Not getting enough love from your parents and it creating a situation where you self-medicate. And that's what it is. So the celebration of everything that's going to be later, it's all undercut by this opening track that he wishes he could not grow up. He wants to stay a child, but we saw what he looked like when he was a child. Coolio. God, I could cry thinking about that poor kid. I at least didn't let my kids post to Instagram when they were 8, but I did let them have an iPad. What was I supposed to do? Back before the so-called AAA game screwed up Angry Birds, that was the greatest video game experience you could possibly have. Star Wars Angry Birds, before you had to do a so-called live service, before the live service kicked in, god damn, that game was so good. Just play it for hours. Man. I don't mean to be an old guy, but I miss the old Angry Birds. I tried playing it the other day. You like download digital content. It's a nightmare. Damn, Sweden, get your shit together. Nice kind of quiet part here. And of course it ends with the slut truck. So that's this mythical truck that he drives around. And then we get to the song Leader, co-produced by Kenny Beats. What? What's Kenny Beats doing on here? It's all blown out and nasty. This is what I'm talking about. I'm outside with the stainless. Yeah, you're outside in Roblox. Old heads get mad. Old heads get triggered. I'm triggered by this suburban white kid saying he's outside with the stainless. Because he is not outside with the stainless. He is on Roblox. Young people know he's joking. He's joking and he's serious at the same time. Then we get to the lyric, we both high as shit. I'm drinking lean, you drinking chowder. That's why when you help me raise $1,000... to fight addiction in central Alabama, one of the poorest states in the country, I'm going to eat chowder that I made because clam chowder is 1,000 times better than lean, okay? I understand that lean seems attractive because it's sweet and it's fucking heroin, and I imagine heroin's great. I mean, I haven't ever had heroin. I have had painkillers when I've had like tooth surgery and stuff, and it felt real good. So I imagine drinking Sprite and feeling like I did when my teeth didn't hurt as much. I bet that is really awesome. But clam chowder's better. Yeah, sure, you eat too much clam chowder to get a little thick around the middle, but you will be hearty and you will be felt and you will feel a warmth around you. You will just feel this joy as you got the potatoes and you got the clams and sometimes you got some peas in there and you got that broth. Man, just chowder life, okay? I know it's probably some weird. I should look it up on Urban Dictionary, and chowder probably means something else. And I did look up what it meant, and I think I know what it means. And okay, I'm not going to do that on camera. But I will eat clam chowder that I made. Okay, then we get to Project Pat, these blared out springs, chipmunks singing again about how high he is. This song at first drove me crazy because he said, oh, Jesus Christ. How am I going to talk about this white suburban kid referring to Chicago as the Rack? As in Chirac. Anyways, just touched down in the Rack, need to hit up Project Pat. Which is like, if you're talking about Chicago, and you're talking about Project Pat is famously from 3-6 Mafia from Memphis. But it turns out, if you look it up, Project Pat is the name of his plug, which is a name that people came up with when they realized calling someone a drug dealer is less cool. It's not a plug. If someone's just dealing you drugs, they're not your plug. They're just your drug dealer. A plug is a person who provides drugs to a drug dealer. There's a hierarchy. There's a system. Okay? You're not talking to Sosa. Sosa was Tony Montana's plug. You're talking to Tony Montana who's selling you the drugs. So don't act like you got the plug. Every one of you druggies, stop calling drug dealers plugs. You're just trying to make yourself feel better. It's not cool. I mean, it's not cool to have a plug if you're a drug dealer, but at least the words have a meaning, okay? You know, you go up and you go to Starbucks and the barista serves you, you don't go, hey, I got my coffee from the regional manager, y'all. No, that's a barista. You're buying drugs from a barista, not the regional manager. Man, I feel strongly about this. Words have meaning. Hey, slut, wanna fuck? Get your BBL in the truck. Is he ironic? I don't know. And just all these themes of childishness. So high we jumped. And he says in the Stolo, which is like a stolen car. But I heard him say stroller. Then we get to the best track on the album, Tommy. God, I love this beat. Just total anti-music insanity. And it's him at his most childish. Touch your toes. Oh, pour some more. Like his voice is cracking because he's a teenager, because he's a child. Because the whole time I'm talking about this kid, I'm talking about a child. Okay? A child who's closer to the 2-year-old crying downstairs because she wants to eat bananas and beans than she is to me. Okay? We are talking about a child. But I love the cracked voice because it is a reminder that we're listening to an adolescent. Okay? And I know it's sort of imitating the small voices of Playboy Cardi or Uzi or whatever. Tyler, I'm 17. Okay. Bitch, I'm 17. Kind of weird she like me, but I ain't no child bitch. Yes, you are. It's child abuse. It's called statutory RAPE. That's what it's called. That's what it's called. Is there consent? Good job, y'all. There's consent. You just passed the Drake test. Nope. Not okay. Not okay. Not okay. Doesn't matter. Hey, he can rap that he likes it all he wants. Those people should go to jail. Children are children. Jail. You go. Don't you dare come to me about what states it's legal in, okay? I've already talked about Chirac, okay? I'm already up in the Drake academics world. I don't want to hear any explanations of where it's legal and where it's not. It's not ethical. Even if it's legal, it's not ethical. And I can say that because I'm a certified badass, despite the fact I'm preaching to you about underage sex and drugs, okay? Do you know how hard it is to get that card when you're straight edge and a professor? Next song is called ASAP. Nice kind of piano loop. Yeah. Feel like yesterday we were shooting dice on the stairs. Stop fronting. You're not shooting dice on the stairs. You were never shooting dice on the stairs. It's okay. I'll calm down. It's just the way young people are. Nothing means anything. Everything means nothing. It's okay. Let it go. Spunky Bee's mom, okay? Spunky Bee was a pimp, remember? Remember Spunky Bee peeled your cat back, remember? Remember Spunky Bee? It's just, well, Spunky Bee got a record deal. That's all. Spunky Bee's famous. You called me from the pen. I can't do it. I can't do this album. Who called you from the pen? This is the problem, is that the sad, very sad truth is that many, many Black Americans have family members who are victims of the criminal justice system, either close family members or distant family members. It is much more likely that a Black person would know somebody growing up or distant related who has spent time in the criminal justice system. That is exclusively because of the inequality of our justice system and of our society. Exclusively, that is the reason. Exclusively. No other reason that is the way, but that is the truth. So when you say, you called me from the pen, you're goofing around with a lot of pain that you don't feel. Now, maybe he's got family members in jail, and there's lots of white people in jail too, okay? But it's not this systemic problem that is highlighted. That's why gangster rap is so important, because it shines a light on the war on drugs and the effect that it has had on the marginalized communities of America. It reflects the truth back to America in a way that it cannot avoid and that it can bob its head to. So you're not calling anybody from the pen, okay? It's just a sad. Now, I'm not saying this is universal, okay? I'm sure there are thousands, millions of Black Americans who don't know anybody who's ever been to prison or have anyone in their family or grow up with anybody, okay? But there's more levels of distance, okay? But in general, the levels, the degrees of separation between a human being and jail is directly reflected by their race in an unequal white supremacist society. So it's not okay to say you called me from the pen. Put diamonds on my veneers. Will he stop? Can I get through the song? I said you were good. Put diamonds on all my veneers. He's joking. He's joking, Spunky B. He's joking. Y'all raise $1,000 for this fund. Spunky B's coming back. Spunky B will come back and perform the songs of NetSpend if you help me raise $1,000 to fight addiction. Next song's called Fuck Cancer. Very kind of childish, very Blady-like. This dude he's got ghostwriters. I'm on the run like Foxy Brown. How do you know about Foxy Brown being on the run? That happened when you were like 3 years old. Anyways, check the glove box if we got Browns. I was at the Benihana before I even had $1. It probably was. It's a place that'll... Anyways. Why is it called Fuck Cancer when it's not even about cancer? I imagine a lot of people who've suffered from cancer have people who've suffered from cancer. Like, great. Oh, he's going to take a stand against cancer. Next song is called Skipping Class. More interesting beat, more layers, loud sounds. I love this beat. I like this album. I feel bad listening to it. I feel bad talking about it. But I like it. Ethereal voice in the background. Kind of techno 90s. Can't make out the words. I believe he says, I'm done skipping classes with you. I prefer the drugs. Beach Leak, kind of a Latin rhythms, a little bit out of place. This is the future. Just these lyrics, man. Drugs in my drink, I fell asleep. It's so sad, too, because all these drugs that all these rappers are promoting just make you sleep. It's sad. And they love what they see. But if you went close to me, surf gang at the beach, it's so much weed, I broke the leaf. I'm OT, I OD off the opiates, I swear I get too geeked. Make me leave, so sad, this bitch is a treesh. I double up the loose leaf, now I can't even feel the weed. I feel like Future, but Gen Z, put some Molly in them teeths, baby tell me what you need. You might be fucked up, but not like me. Just the misery and sadness of his life. It's just miserable. It's a miserable life. Addiction is a lifelong disease that you give to yourself, and it's a sad thing. Shut up, most crazy sounds, a high whine, most kind of anti-music. Does he say wah? I think he does. I think he does some actual Playboy Cardi wah. Next song is called Bird Box, and it's like, it came out in 2018, so like when he was like 15 years old or whatever, that movie came out and he probably saw it, you know? It's probably just a song that he remembers. He says, don't need no guidance, this money turned me on. He does need guidance. That's the problem. Drop the Blunt. About sex. I got kind of bored here. I don't know. Molly water got me rolling. Drugs fucking up my soul. But I know what I know. You lost. I know you lost souls. Lost souls. Lost souls. All that pussy popping got you looking old. I had to look the other way. I can't go home. What kind of sexual crisis is going on right here in this song? What kind of like little slippery? What's going on in the slut truck for this? I'm uncomfortable. I don't like listening to the song. I just dropped the blunt and I'm screaming, "Where's the hose?" Then, of course, the saddest track is Perk Soda, because he is actively encouraging any teenager who's listening to this music to put Percocets in their soda. Okay? Again, he's saying we're going to be okay, but if you get used to putting Percocets in your soda, the chances of you being okay goes way down. Doing drugs does not make you more interesting. It makes you a consumer. Okay? If you think consumers are interesting, if you think it's interesting to go to Burger King and buy a Whopper, and that Whopper is your personality, you are Whopper buying dude, then by all means, be interesting by doing drugs. You're just consuming. Stop consuming and start creating. This kid's interesting because he's a creator, not because he's a consumer. So if you listen to NetSpend and what you take away from it is, I should be interesting by putting Percocets in my soda, that is not how you become interesting. That is how you become a consumer. If you want to be like NetSpend, become a creator. Next song is called Laughin'. Again, I'm preaching. I'm a certified badass. From like 15 years before this guy was born, I was a certified badass. More whiny, chunky drums, atmospheric and feeling. And Say Please is the next song. Sad final track. Hella money in the couch. Money and women. They smoke and crack. I'm not about it. That makes me uncomfortable because crack is very much in our society coded as a black drug, whereas powder cocaine is coded as a white drug. So I kind of feel like what he's saying is he's uncomfortable being around black people who are doing drugs and he'd rather be around white people doing drugs. I don't know if that's what he's saying, but that's the kind of coded thing behind what he's saying. So anyways, there is my review of NetSpend's album. I hope you found it interesting. These are my Patreons. I'm not going to buy this album. Most certainly not, but they help me to buy other music, which is great. I'm hopefully going to, I'm going to be cutting a check for whatever money gets clicked on, whatever money I get from AdSense is going to be donated. So they help me to cover making a video that's not getting me any money. A couple of them wanted shout outs. Car Sick wanted a shout out. Virginia Representation. Jack Dyson wanted one. Bowden Braga said one of the best jerk albums of the year. Interesting idea of a thing. Carter P wanted a shout out. Yes, called him the GOAT, which I assume is meta-ironic. All right, I told my wife this would be a half hour to 45-minute video. How did I do? 52 minutes, close enough. Please donate. Okay? People need help. Young people, old people, we need help. We're too addicted. There's the camera.